Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 192 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 48 of A Storm of Swords, that's Jon 6.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, and hopefully we're going to provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll provide some additional information about the characters and geography of this chapter. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. It's been a up and down week, but I'm doing all right at the moment.
Give us both. Give us the ups and the downs.
The up is our Sustainer chat on Tuesday was a lot of fun.
Yes, it was. They're great. Yeah. They're so much fun to hang out with.
They are. We played Two Truths and a Lie, which was a little more challenging than I expected to come up with my own stuff. One, because I'm dreadfully boring, it appears.
Yeah. Well, no, one of your truths was absolutely astonishing.
Oh.
I mean, absolutely astonishing. I mean, to me, I think I could recognize you by your fingerprints.
Yes, you might.
I learned something new about you. It was amazing. You know what was very funny is both you and I both came up with both of our lies were about a sporting prowess that we have. That we don't actually have.
That we don't actually have, right?
And all of the sustainers spotted it straight away.
Yes. Of course, one of the last things said was you taking a shot at me by saying, he's no athlete. It's like, oh, how nice. How
it was
nice.
So obvious. I was like, come on.
Now, if I had put a basketball
I might have believed it. You can say, if you said you almost made it to the NBA, I would have said that one's true. Because you're very good at basketball in my book.
But yes, it was a lot of fun. And we learned some interesting things. One of our sustainers has been to a nude beach. Who knew? Mm-hmm. So, and another was a national level swimmer.
That was a real surprise.
Yeah.
But strangely, I didn't choose that as the lie because when they said it, it just had a ring of truth when they said it, even though it was news.
I agree. And one played with a baby zebra, which I was like, if that's your lie, that is the weirdest lie I've ever heard.
No, and the downs?
Oh, yes. Well, so we were going to record yesterday, but we decided we weren't quite ready. We pushed it today. In about 10 to 15 minutes after we decided that, I get a call from Molly. It says, Dad, I've rear-ended someone at the intersection up the road.
No.
So I was like, okay, I'll be up. Everyone's okay, right? Yes, I barely. The nudge was so subtle. Like they had to point out to me where the dent was, and it was one of those like small all white service vans, like commercial vans.
Oh yeah,
the very small kind, and the back bumper had all kinds of dents and chips and scuff marks on it, and there was this tiny little dent. And I was like, I'm up here because of this.
This one in the middle of that larger one,
right? So, but the guy said, since it's a
if he works for somebody else and it's their van, I totally understand.
Yeah, I did too. But do you ever get the feeling that insurance might be a bit of a scam?
I don't know of too many insurance companies that struggle.
You're right. You pay them all this money.
Exactly.
And, every year, and especially when you have a teenager, so much money. And so I called this morning to find out, so what's going to happen now? And, they're like, well, what would probably be the best idea is if you tried to do this out of pocket, off policy.
Yeah.
So what is the point of you then?
To tell you this. If it wasn't for us, you might try to claim this on insurance, you fool.
So I could keep paying you premiums for no reason. So anyway, that was a bit of a downer. But,
that is a downer, I'm sorry.
When you have a teenage driver,
hopefully the owners of the van won't be quite so pedantic as the driver.
I hope. I reached out today to discuss what it might look like to pay out of pocket, and I haven't heard back. So We'll see.
How old is Molly?
Should be 17 in like
No,
3 weeks.
that's too young to drive. That's part of the problem.
Right.
Honestly, I was 19 when I wrecked my dad's car, and I rear-ended a guy, and he was driving a company car, and he did not care one iota. I mean, he took the
Not my car.
details. Yeah, he's like, yeah. And we never heard from them. Never paid anything for that car. They
You
did
know,
never even...
yeah, someone rear-ended my van years ago, back probably 2018, 2019, something like that. And my van was much younger back then, but still quite elderly. And it was the same situation as Molly. I started to go, and then I was starting to turn right in an intersection, and then a car came around, and so I waited. But the guy behind me
didn't see.
didn't anticipate me waiting, so he went. I stopped. He went, and he smacked into the back of me. Very little was done. We swapped insurance, but I was like, it's gonna be more of a hassle to get all to go through the hoops than to just go about my life. So I that's what I did.
Again, the insurance company wins.
Right.
They make it so much hassle, you just don't bother. The only thing they make easy is the premium payment.
Right, yeah, that they make sure it's convenient for you. So you've got something interesting written down here that I really want to hear about.
Yes.
Maybe it'll bring me to another up.
Well, I if you don't laugh at this, then you're not the Mackelly Ray I know.
I'm already laughing.
Yeah.
I don't even know what it is yet.
So last weekend, as you know, because you had to edit 2 weekends in a row, I was out of town, and I was out of town because I went to a wedding.
Right.
And I think I told you this, a sign of how old you are when the flower girl from your wedding is the bride of the wedding you're attending.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes, sir.
You're getting old.
Uh-huh.
So the bride was my wife's cousin. We had a really nice time. Philadelphia seemed like a very nice city. I said that to a Philadelphian. He said, the freaks come out at night. But it was very nice. I really enjoyed it. The wedding was terrific, and the groom's family were all really lovely. The whole thing couldn't have been better. I do not recommend driving to and from Philadelphia.
Yes, we discussed that on our sustainer call.
And it was miserable. But, so we all went, me, my wife, my son, and we took my mother-in-law, who is affectionately known as Gaga. We all call her Gaga.
Oh, now the note makes some sense. I thought you meant Lady Gaga.
No. So we shared a hotel room to save on costs because it was the weekend of the National High School Rowing Regatta, which was in Philadelphia, and so every hotel was booked to the gills. So it was expensive to stay. So we shared a room. So basically, we had 2 twin beds and a couch. So poor Lucas was on the couch. Carson and I had a bed, and Gaga had the other bed. Gaga's elderly. She smokes. She's not in the rudest of health, and she does snore somewhat.
Now the note's making all kinds of sense.
Her snoring, I mean, this is not really the story, but just an aside, her snoring is a symphony. I mean, it is astonishing, the noises that come out of her.
Cacophony of sounds.
I mean, honestly, you could name a sound and it came out at some point during the night. And
Did I hear a tuba in there?
Exactly. The sort of like the theme running through the symphony is of an abattoir, animals being slaughtered, and small like 2-cylinder engines being fired up. Those are the two sort of like
okay.
But then there's
quite the
beeps
mashup.
and whistles and howls and also words which are always entertaining. Yes. So we're all kind of awake listening because none of us could sleep.
Right. What else could you do but listen?
But the hotel room, the bathroom door creaked quite badly. We'd all noticed it, apart from Gaga. Gaga's hearing is not great either, so she doesn't hear noises as well as we do. But we'd all noticed that this door really creaked when you opened it. So anyway, Gaga wakes herself up eventually, and she goes to the bathroom. And it's middle of the night. She thinks we're all asleep. None of us are. But she opens the bathroom door to a 40 decibel, which shocks her and makes her go, oh my God, at like 80 decibels. So,
Good thing nobody was sleeping.
oh, yes, exactly. But then she went to the bathroom, and then she came out of the bathroom and went through the same routine again. The door opened, creaked. She went, oh my God.
Like it was just happening for the first time. Totally caught her off guard again. How long was she in there?
No, only moments. I mean, just went to pee, but it cracked us up. Well, I mean, after the fact, at the time we were all cursing,
Right, yes. Looking back, you can laugh now.
Smart. All right, well, let's get down to business. How did we leave Jon Snow? Last time we saw Jon, he and his wildling group were walking through the Gift, miles south of the Wall. Looking for shelter from a storm, they came across the ruins of a village, as well as a lone traveller occupying those ruins. Jon told Yigrette the history of the tower in the lake next to the village. The Magnar commanded Jon to kill the traveller. When Jon refused, Yigrette did the deed instead. Jon feared his inability to kill the man would cause the Magnar to kill Jon. However, before any actions could be taken, a grey direwolf launched into the mix, killing wildlings left and right. Jon took the opportunity to jump on the lone horse and ride for Castle Black. He got away free, apart from an arrow protruding from his leg. Was it Ygritte's arrow?
That's the question, isn't it?
We may never know. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one?
Jon completes his wild ride from Queen's Crown back to Castle Black, and along his journey he struggled with whether he was wrong to love Yigrette or wrong to have left Yigrette. His leg wound is infected and he's sick with fever. He makes a brief stop in Molestown to trade out horses and issues a warning about wildlings south of the Wall. He tells the stable boys to gather the residents and head for the relative safety of Castle Black.
First thing he notices when riding into Castle Black is the lack of sentries guarding the entrance to the castle. It does not stop there. The castle looks nearly abandoned. The only sign of life is smoke rising from the chimney of the armory, so that's where he heads.
Inside, he finds the one-armed smith Donal Noye. Noye is surprised to see Jon. The brothers got wind that Jon had turned his cloak. Jarman Buckwell and his men saw Jon riding with the wildlings with their own eyes. Jon admits he was riding with the wildlings, but not as a traitor. He was acting on orders from Qhorin Halfhand.
Exactly what a traitor would say.
It is.
Noye takes the news in stride. Jon asks where everyone is, and Noye says they're defending the wall against wildlings. Seems that wildlings are popping up everywhere along the wall. However, when even a single black brother appears to defend the wall, the wildlings disappear. Jon knows immediately what's happening. Mance Rayder is fainting, keeping the Night's Watch distracted and spread thin. His real location of attack is here at Castle Black.
Noye notices that Jon's leg is drenched in blood. He wants Jon to see Maester Aemon, but Jon doesn't think there's time. He tells Noye about the 120-strong wildling force south of the wall. Noye says they have about 40-some brothers currently at Castle Black, but they're all injured, old men, or green boys. Even leadership at the castle is dubious. Bowen Marsh put elderly Sir Winton Stout in command, but the old knight's so befuddled that he appears to have forgotten.
On the way to see Maester Aemon, Jon learns that Ghost has not shown up at the gates of Castle Black. While the old Maester begins preparations to repair his wound, Jon learns that Lord Commander Mormont was killed by his own men at Craster's Keep, and that only a dozen true Night's Watch men have returned from the Great Ranging. Jon ponders options for who will succeed Mormont as Lord Commander.
Jon officially fulfills Qhorin Halfhand's command and reports that the wildlings didn't find the Horn of Winter in the Frostfangs despite their best efforts. So, yay for Jon, he did it. Aemon's surprised that anyone thought it was more than a legend in the first place. Jon brings up Yigrette and admits that he broke his Night's Watch vow with her, although he adds it was part of his orders from Qhorin Halfhand that he assimilate into the wildlings regardless of what it took, and that just happened to be what it took. What's a man to do?
And of course, now the 40 brothers of the Night's Watch gathered to hear more about it. Jon soon passes out from the searing pain of the red-hot blade pressed to his wound. Yeah, you would. He wakes in darkness and yet more pain. Suddenly, Pip's face stares down at him. Grenna's there too. They tell Jon of who survived the mutiny at Craster's and of Sam being left behind, but also of Sam killing an other with the dragon glass blade.
Big O. Big O other. Capital
Big O.
O.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Wouldn't be that big of a deal if he killed another.
Killed another.
Killed someone, okay. Maester Aemon is woken to give Jon more milk of the poppy. Jon asks if Winterfell and the King in the North has been notified about the wildling attack. Aemon is tasked with bringing Jon the bad news that his brothers Bran and Rickon have been killed and that Winterfell has been sacked. But Gren throws in that Theon is getting his just punishment, as Roose Bolton's son is flaying him inch by inch. Jon can't believe Theon would kill the boys.
Jon is confused. If Bran is dead, whose grey direwolf aided in his escape from the wildlings at Queen's Crown? He wonders if maybe a part of Bran's soul transferred into the direwolf like Oral's did with his eagle. When the milk of the poppy takes hold, Jon sleeps. He dreams of himself and Yigrette in the hot pools of Winterfell. He rejects her advances, claiming he will never father a bastard. Yigrette tells him he knows nothing, and her body dissolves into the water.
Okay.
Mackelly, just one more time. Jenny was so much smoother at this than we are. I mean, so much better.
Every time I'm reading it, I think I probably should have read through this beforehand.
I did like in the chat before we mentioned that we'd had to delay a day because we weren't quite ready. As if we put lots of time and effort. It's like,
Right.
none of this is off the cuff. It takes real thought and planning. Yes.
Right. Yes, I could have used that 24 hours to read through it at least once.
You know what, actually? Though, it's funny that you got called out because I almost came back to you and said, you know what, let's power through and do it. But I'm glad I didn't.
Right. Yes. It was, it was a beautiful day yesterday. And Stacy was out and Molly she was out at a voice lesson and then she had swim coaching. And I had the whole evening to myself and I thought, what am I going to do with this beautiful evening all to myself? Ring-a-ding-a-ding. Oh, that's what I'm going to do.
Anyway, back to this. Sorry for the prelude has broken back into the main body of the story.
So all those people that skipped our intro are now like, what are they even talking about?
You ever seen Monty Python's Meaning of Life?
I have.
You remember at the beginning, there's funnily enough, actually, it's an insurance company, I think, where the pirates come in and fight them. And then midway through the movie, it carries on. That's kind of what's going on here. Yeah?
Right. Yes. I see the similarities.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
So Jon's story's been fairly active compared to some people, but I do like the sort of traction and impetus that it's got now that he's got back to Castle Black with this warning.
Right. Yeah, he's finally come full circle too, which, he's finally paid off on what his mission was, to deliver that kind of useless bit of information. They didn't find what they were looking for.
Which Maester Aemon says, but that thing didn't exist anyway.
Why were they looking for it?
Yeah, why were you hunting them if they were looking for that? Leave them to it.
Right. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it has, now we get to see what's going to happen here. We're going to advance the plot hopefully here.
Yeah.
Shortly.
Yeah.
But Jon has, as he's riding, he has a voice on each shoulder with opposite thoughts on Yigrette. And on one shoulder, he's got, you were wrong to have loved Yigrette. And on the other shoulder, he's got, you were wrong to have left Yigrette. Mm-hmm. And
are you going to portray one of these as an angel and one as a devil?
You might be able to do so, I guess. Yeah.
Well, you could, but I mean, I don't know which one is which. I really don't.
Right.
Because...
Yes, I don't think Jon would know either.
Yeah.
I think maybe once you've loved her, then maybe it was wrong to leave her. Maybe that's where you have to end up. It's like, maybe you should not have loved her in the first place, but once you did, then maybe you should not have left her. But of course, as he thinks in this chapter, I'm pledged to the Night's Watch. So that's my first true love.
That whole storyline is I mean, not to predict where it goes, because probably I literally don't remember where it goes, but it is genuinely kind of sad for Jon, because he was inexperienced. Now he's met someone and fell in love with them, and now he has to, because of the vow he foolishly took, he has to abandon her forever.
Yeah.
And not just abandon her, but to totally betray her.
Yes.
As part of that abandonment.
Yes. That is a difference. That's an added issue there. And it's what Benjen was trying to tell him at the feast for King Robert go out, live your life before you commit to something for life.
One little solace I take is that the actors got married in real life, So
right, yes. So
their love keeps going.
Yes. And of course, if he hadn't pledged his vow to the Night's Watch, he would have never met Yigrette in the first place. So
good point.
Yeah.
Although, honestly, though, I mean, given the state of the Night's Watch, he might take on a 1-year volunteer.
You'd think maybe it would offer such a thing with how
right.
How in need they are of people.
Exactly. I ain't vowing for life. You crazy?
I'll vow for 6 weeks. How about that? But some blame could also fall on Qhorin Halfhand, because his mission was not necessarily easy for Jon when it came to emotions getting involved here. He was tasked with, assimilating himself into this group, but also remain true to your heart, remain true to your Night's Watch. Then he goes and falls in love, and then we got problems.
I think Qhorin knew he was giving him a tough mission.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
It's on Jon to, keep it separated.
Right. I saw online, and I almost said an interesting idea about this, but instead I'm going to say an idea worthy of bringing up.
Okay.
That the leg wound that he keeps ripping open in this chapter is possibly a metaphor for his inability to come to terms with what's right and wrong regarding Yigrette.
Right.
Because, at the end of the chapter, he tells Yigrette, he will not father any children with her, and she melts into the hot pool. And at the same, that happens just after the wound finally gets sealed up with the searing hot hot blade.
That's lovely. I like that very much.
Yeah.
I have nothing to say. It made me wistful for the cleverness of the sort of allegory of it.
Yes. Yeah. That George Martin. It's like he knows what he's doing or something.
Yeah. I mean, he knows it too well, because it passed me by. I was too busy going, oh, sad, ouch, Never thought to bring the two together.
Yes, there you go. Keeps ripping it open, just like he keeps struggling with the what is wrong with what happened with he and Yigrette. Which part was wrong, or both, possibly. Anyway, the anguish that he feels over her,
or neither.
Yeah, that's true. But the anguish he feels over Yigrette leads him to consider his father's possible similar torment with Jon's mother and Catelyn Stark. And, maybe putting himself in his father's shoes here, in firsthand experience, maybe it'll help him accept his parentage and relate to his father's decision to leave Jon's mom for Catelyn Stark. Maybe he realizes it's harder than I thought it might have been, or so.
But do you feel that he ever held it against Ned?
No, I guess not. I mean, I guess he's wise enough to realize that was the choice his father, knowing Ned, was going to make.
Yeah, and in some ways it goes the other way, because now, knowing how brokenhearted he is to leave Yigrette, might make you start to question Ned more. Hey, Ned, as a child growing up with you in Winterfell, I understood that you had to make the decision you made to betray my mother. But now I've lived it, I can't believe you would do that to the poor woman. I'm doing the same thing, and I'm a monster,
Well, yeah, that's possible. Of course, also Ned refused to let anyone ever talk about it, so maybe Jon would think, my father must have felt the same way, that he was a monster for doing it.
Well, there's going to be 40 very disappointed members of the Night's Watch when they gather around for the storytelling, aren't there?
Yes, very possibly, yes. And as we're talking about it, I'm thinking of some more similarities here with the wound and the love of Yigrette. The love with Yigrette began in the hot pool in the cave.
Yeah.
And fittingly, it ended in the hot pool at Winterfell.
Okay. Yeah.
And Aemon, coming full circle here, Maester Aemon is the one that closed up the wound. Maester Aemon is also the one that chose duty over fame and fortune, becoming king, and
resealing the vow, sort of thing.
Yeah, and coming to his family's aid during Robert's Rebellion. Those are the times when he really struggled the most with keeping his vow. Maybe Aemon sealing it up will help Jon reaffirm his vows.
Yeah, excellent.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Something.
We are making no progress on our notes because
the
next couple of notes are yours, and I don't really know what you want to say about them. So I've let you ramble. Normally, I keep us ticking along at this point.
Right, but you're like, I have no idea what he's talking about here. So sometimes I intentionally leave vague notes in here so that I can
so
surprise you.
Make me look stupid.
I just want to catch your true reaction without you having any thought.
Okay.
So the thing I have in the note I have is confusing description, and it's a description that about Jon. He's got a fever from the infection, and it said that twice he found himself riding in the wrong direction, and I wondered if that meant that the horse was pointed in the wrong direction, or he'd gone full on Dudley Do-Right. It was, wait a second, that's a tail. Why am I facing the tail?
Yes. Well done.
I thought that was funny. It made myself laugh, and I'm glad to hear it made you laugh as well.
Yes.
The other things were just kind of bits of reminders, because I like to stick to our roots, which was supposed to be a reader's companion for the story. Okay. So just a few things to remind people. Jon mentions living in Hardin's Tower before he became Lord Commander Mormont's steward, and that was because Jon slept alone in Hardin's Tower away from the other recruits at first, because the other boys were afraid of Ghost.
Right.
So he kept Ghost in a different tower away from them.
Is that where he was sleeping when the White woke up?
No, by then he'd become Mormont's steward. That's the next thing he says, is that he mentions that the tower, the Lord Commander Tower, was burned, and Mormont moved into the King's Tower, and the Lord Commander's Tower was burned when Jon killed the White of Other by burning him with the drapes or whatever it was, and that's when Jon burned his hand that he's always flexing.
Yeah.
So, just want to remind you of that, and then also, Donal Noye mentions that Jarman Buckwell and his group saw Jon with their own eyes riding freely with the wildlings, and just a reminder of what that's about. Jarman Buckwell led a small group of scouts up the giant stair of the Frostfangs. Remember, there was 3 groups. Qhorin Halfhand and Jon's group.
Yep.
They went up the Skirling Pass. Jarman Buckwell's group went up the giant stair, and Thorin Smallwood and his group followed up the Milkwater. So, but back in the prologue of Chet's prologue of this book, only Thorin Smallwood's group had returned. They went up the Milkwater, and they came back and reported the immense size of the wildling force coming down the Milkwater. But Mormont had been waiting around for Qhorin Halfhand and Jarman Buckwell's group to return before acting, and then the Whites attacked and ruined all the plans.
So did it say that Jarman Buckwell was back at Castle Black, or was his news back at Castle Black?
He and his group made it back to Castle Black.
Okay.
Is it back to your idea, your thoughts now, or
no? Well, actually, you made a good point. Actually, that Donal Noye is very accepting of Jon's story, as if
he is. Sure is.
There's a lot to that story, but I guess Donal Noye, I see him as a kind of a good judge of character. So maybe he's, he reckons Jon wouldn't betray us.
Yeah, and he's fairly astute. Remember, he's the one that had observations about Renly that were pretty similar to what we'd heard others that know Renly well mention. that he was copper instead of steel or something like that. It was soft and bendable or whatever.
And
Looked
also,
pretty.
I mean, the thing is, even if John's story is obviously partially true, he sided with the wildlings for a while. That got him back to the wall safely. Here he is reporting for duty.
Yeah, the fact that
If
he's here is a good sign to warn
exactly,
them, you know?
yeah.
That's
I mean, if he betrayed them for the love of the red-haired girl, that's slightly different. But Donal Noye can brush that under the carpet, you know.
right. Yeah, but the question is, will others with a small o
Yeah,
be so accepting of Jon's story?
I think the others with a big O will be very accepting. They won't really
They would
care.
definitely, they won't care one way or the other.
Yeah, obviously, those who don't like Jon Snow will find this as a wedge issue against him, sort of.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Certainly, cynical brothers,
yeah,
might suggest that maybe he noticed that the wildlings were likely to lose this fight, and so changed his cloak back to a black cloak.
yeah. He came through Molestown.
Right? Yes. Could have picked up a brown one as he went.
Actually, I
Nate.
was thinking when we were talking about the 2 year Night's Watch deal, they could have brown cloaks. So it's another avenue for us.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Different color for your commitment level.
exactly.
Uh huh. Yes.
John surmises that what Mance Rayder is doing is trying to stretch the remaining Night's Watch forces thin. It makes a lot of sense, actually. The last thing that Mance wants, knowing that he's got a force south of the wall, is a few hundred Black Brothers huddling at Castle Black because they
Right.
could upset the plan. But the plan is solid. If you can stretch, Mance Rayder knows that the forces are thinned out because of the disaster of the Great Ranging.
Oh
If he can
yes.
stretch them
Yes,
a
he
little bit
does.
thinner by attacking multiple points along the wall, then that 120 force that Yigrette is part of should have no problem taking Castle Black.
That is true. Yeah. What we'll find out in background here, it's stretched out a pretty long way across the wall. So they'd have to huddle. They'd have to hurry back to Castle Black, the wildlings, I mean, in order to amass in force on the
Oh,
northern side. But spreading them thin really is most effective on the southern side battle.
right. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to take the wall from the north, you probably would amass your forces and really go for it. But
Right.
that's not the plan here. The plan is to take Castle Black and then open the gates. You're right, though. That 120 has to keep Castle Black long enough to get those gates open, and then have that very stretched out 100,000 come back together again.
Right. Yeah. That
But anyway, I mean, forewarned is forearmed. The Castleback is not structured to defend from the south. That wasn't the original plan, and you have some more background about its southern-facing defenses.
right.
Um, it is still buildings with various advantages of height. If the
Uh-huh.
Night's Watch are worth their salt, even 50 might be able to defend against 120 with the advantage
Right.
of foreknowledge and defensive positions. Uh, the tricky part might be the desire to pull back those wall defenders, because the thing is, if you know that those are just feints, then you don't need to send your best fighters up onto the wall.
Right.
But if you stop sending them, then Mance Rayder knows that you're onto them.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because I saw it in the notes here. Bowen Marsh could leave a token force atop the wall, maybe just like 2 or 3 people in the various spots that are moving around, so you can't tell because you're looking at 700 feet up.
Yeah.
If you see a black cloak, you see a black cloak,
Right.
and just to keep them honest, keep them where they are, and then amass everyone else at
Yeah.
Castle Black.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, especially if they're sort of like reasonably quick, maybe quick but not very good at fighting. Just have them run up and down the wall as much as they can, just to be seen.
Back and forth.
Exactly. Yeah, because but the one thing is, of course, if Mance were to become suspicious that somehow Castle Black had discovered the plan, not sure what he could do about it anyway. I mean, he's presumably fairly sundered from the people south of the wall. You might be able to get a raven over the wall, I suppose, but um, it would be a
Right.
hardy raven. I'm not sure I would do it. You want me to go where?
That high?
No, come
You
on.
know how cold it
Yeah,
is?
it's freezing up there. But anyway, all of this leads me to just remind us one more time of the folly of Mormont's ranging. All the intel, summering all the intel that was gained from the Great Ranging and the
Ugh.
loss of 270 men, uh,
Yep.
the wildlings did not find a legendary horn which may well have never existed. And they are coming to attack the now undefended Castle Black from the south. But that's only intel because Castle Black is undefended. If those
Right.
270 men were still in place, it wouldn't be a problem.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yeah, if you think... I feel like every time this ranging comes up, we just bash it.
Yeah, we do.
But if you think about the original mission of the ranging, it was to figure out what happened to Benjen Stark and Sir Waymar Royce and all the other rangers that have gone out and haven't come back. And to generally figure out what was going on out there. They didn't find Benjen Stark or Sir Waymar Royce, unless one of them is Cold Hands. But again,
Possible.
they didn't find, the ranging didn't find it, Sam did. But they did find out that there are whites and others out there. So I guess that is something. But now it's just hurt their cause because most of them died in the process.
You're right. They did find out about the others, but they already knew about whites. And by the presence of the whites, one might suspect that somebody was raising them from their graves.
Point well taken. Point well taken. Yes.
So I worry about Ghost. Where is he? But then I also think, well, maybe he didn't feel the need to come to Castle Black because Jon wasn't there. Now Jon is there. He might be drawn back to Castle Black.
Oh, right. Yeah. We had talked about how Jon wasn't sensing him when he was south of the wall and Ghost is north of the wall. And we had talked about whether there might be some sort of magical force field that prevents this kind of transference to occur. I still hope that Ghost is off on some Call of the Wild adventure that might someday be turned into an animated series.
Good.
Ghost north of the wall.
Moving on.
But is no sign of Ghost possibly a positive to this point? Because up until this point, the brothers of the Night's Watch thought that Jon was a traitor. Had Ghost come traipsing up to the wall, might they have killed Ghost in vengeance for Jon's betrayal?
Interesting. But actually also you might see Jon's sundering from Ghost as backing up his story. But I mean, no, there was a practical reason for leaving Ghost. They had to climb the wall, and that wasn't going to be easy for a direwolf.
Of course, they didn't know that Jon was going to show back up at the southern part of the wall, so they might have just thought, oh, there's that ghost of that traitor. Kill it!
Yeah.
So, anyway.
Yeah. Although, even with what Buckwell saw, you still wouldn't necessarily assume. You see a member of your thing who's in the enemy camp, maybe a traitor, maybe an infiltrator. Let's not kill his dog just for the heck of it.
Well, yeah, it could be. It would be taking an astute observer to pick up on possibly he's there infiltrating, not just trading.
But I'm saying there's 2 reasons why he might be there, and from a distance, you have no idea which one of the 2 it is.
Well, yeah.
And now he's turned back up. You're right. Quick, hide the direwolf pelt.
We haven't seen Ghost.
Ghost? Who?
Ghost? No.
So there's going to be Succession, The Wall.
Right.
Who are the leading candidates?
Well, the 2 leading candidates are...
For Lord Commander, of course, is the thing I forgot to say there.
Yes. The 2 leading candidates are Dennis Maester and Cotter Pike, the commanders of the Shadow Tower and Eastwatch by the Sea, respectively there. And as Jon mentions, we didn't mention it in the summary, so I'll just mention it here. Dennis Maester is from Seaguard as a Maester. Cotter Pike is from the Iron Islands, Pike being the bastard surname for the Iron Islands. Malisters and the Ironborn hate each other about as much as the Freys and the Cranogmen. I mean, the two groups are separated by just Iron Man's Bay, which I wondered if that's what they call it in Seagard. Do they call it Iron Man's Bay, or is that just what the Ironborn call it? I'm not sure I'd call it that if I were a Maester. But they've had so many scuffles over the centuries, and that's why Mormont kept them on opposite side, as far apart as you possibly could. Shadow Tower, Eastwatch. So those are the two leading candidates because they're kind of, second in command to the Lord Commander as commanders of smaller garrisons.
Other possibilities? I'm holding out for Winton Stout. He sounds like a winner.
Something about Winton Stout that I looked up.
You
tell. Jon tells us that Winton Stouts has served 80 years in the Night's Watch.
Grief.
Maester Aemon joined in 233, which is only 66 years ago.
Green rookie.
I know, right? So then I thought, oh my, Aemon joined the Night's Watch at 35, which is older than I imagined in my head that he had joined.
Oh, so they might be about the same age then.
Possible. Well, yeah, because Maester Aemon's over 100.
Yeah.
And Winston Stout, you have to imagine, wasn't born a brother of the Night's Watch, so he's got to be at least in his mid-90s or around 100 as well. So, and it made me wonder what their relationship might be, having served together for 66 years and being the only two probably in the whole castle that are of triple digits in years.
I would tell you that I once saw the American comedian Rich Hall. I saw him live. I saw him live a couple of times, actually. He's very funny. And he had a critique of the song Jailhouse Rock by Elvis Presley. And
okay.
There's a line in it. Basically, he had a sort of co-star on stage with him. And he got that person to sing Jailhouse Rock. And then he kept interrupting to sort of like make comments. And there's one point where it said, number 87 says to number 3, you're the cutest jailbird I ever did see. And he's like, okay, all right. He said, first of all, if you're in jail, the last thing you want to hear is the words, you're the cutest jailbird I ever did see. Then he said, number 87 said to number 3, he said, that's the third longest serving prisoner in the prison. How old is that guy?
Hadn't thought about that, had you?
Exactly, yeah.
So anyway,
that's Aemon and Winton are, vying for number one status here.
Right. I'm guessing they're both up there, pretty close to 1 and 2. So other possible candidates to succeed Mormont as Lord Commander. How about Jarman Buckwell?
Yes.
He's Sir Jarman Buckwell. He's a knight, one of the top rangers left in the Night's Watch, and especially Castle Black.
Known to be suspicious of Jon Snow.
Which would not be good.
Not for Jon.
The fact that Mormont is no longer Lord Commander could be a problem for Jon because he was really close with Lord Commander Mormont. I believe he could have convinced him that he was doing what he was supposed to do. Yep. Someone else might not feel the same. Anyway, you know who's on his way, or at least theoretically on his way.
Oh, please, sir. Me.
Yes, you in the blue shirt.
The guy who was in charge of the gold cloaks in King's Landing, whose name, don't tell me, do tell me.
Janos Slynt?
Janos Slynt, the very fella. That's who I was thinking of, yeah.
Yes. He's been on his way from King's Landing for a while now. He should get there soon.
He knows how to run a corrupt organization, that guy.
Yes. Former commander of the Gold Cloaks, as you just said, and former very short stint as Lord Commander of Harrenhal.
Lord of Harrenhal, that's true. Yes.
I mean, Lord of Harrenhal, yes. I bet he doesn't advertise the short stint part.
Yeah.
Just so he'd look good on paper anyway,
yeah.
as a possible new Lord Commander. And finally, where in the world is Alistair Thorne,
who went to King's Landing.
He was last seen, ages ago.
That's right. He went
like a whole book ago.
He went to give them 15. Yeah,
right. And the 5 fell apart.
5 fell apart before he. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yes. So maybe if he ever makes it back, he might be a candidate as well. Is
You know what? He needs to rush back and tell them, hey, you know how we defeat these guys? We put them in vats of formaldehyde, and then they'll just decay anyway.
they they fall
Yeah.
apart.
So,
So that's who I
yeah,
got
yeah.
so far.
No, those are all good thoughts. So John's surgery went, seemingly fairly well. I mean, given how infected he was, he'll be lucky if he isn't brain damaged from it. But at least they seem to have saved his leg, which is good news, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. I'll tell you, it was almost literally the surgery was almost literally the blind leading the blind because Maester Aemon is blind, and Clytus, his steward, can barely see as it is. They're both very, very elderly men.
You hold this wound open while I put this brand in between your fingers. Wait a minute.
The description says Clytus helped guide Maester Aemon's hand. And I was like, oh, goodness. No wonder Jon was in so much pain. That's my back.
He's facing the wrong way again.
He's chasing Donal Noye around. Hold still.
I'll have your other arm. I went in because of my cuticles. Look what I came back with.
Oh, goodness. We are out of control tonight.
So we do find out who made it back from Craster's, or at least some of them, a dozen true men. So do we know who they were?
Yeah, they kind of rattle them off, and they're who we expected. Giant, Dywyn, Gren. But one of the men that made it back is Sweet Donal Hill.
Oh, right.
And so that's why I questioned the dozen true men, as Maester Aemon puts it, because Sweet Donal Hill, who claims to be a Lannister bastard, he was part of the mutiny conspiracy in the prologue. So, true. He didn't join the mutiny at Craster's, so maybe he's had a change of heart after seeing all that he has seen since the prologue. But, I'm not quite sure exactly how true of a Night's Watch man he is.
Yeah. So Jon's pleased to see his friends, but they're basically reporting that Sam is lost, right? So he's,
Yes.
Jon has so many other worries at this point in the book that he doesn't actually dwell on it very much, but that's going to hurt Jon pretty badly as well,
Right. Yes. When he gets time to think about it.
Yeah. It's curious to me
and of course we know Sam's alive at the moment, so maybe
Jon knows somehow. Maybe Ghost will ride back and say, I saw Jon, I saw Sam. Yeah. It's curious to me that news of Ramsay Snow's activities on Theon Greyjoy have made it to the Wall.
I agree.
You would think that, for instance, the Boltons wouldn't send ravens out to announce, we have Theon Greyjoy and we're peeling him. Isn't that fun?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Traders might bring gossip, I suppose, but it seems a bit too on the nose. He's fallen off the face of the earth for us, but these people know exactly what's going on. I don't know. Maybe some of it is just speculation.
Yeah, it must be a generally confusing story going through the North, because the last story going on about Ramsay Snow is that he was killed by Sir Roderick Cassel for crimes against Donella Hornwood and fighting with Manderley men on the Hornwood lands. Yeah. And now suddenly he's alive and doing Stark favors by punishing Theon.
Yes.
It's like, wait, is he dead? Is he alive? Is he evil? Is he, a just man doing honorable things? What's the deal here?
Yeah.
So
Jon has to try and puzzle out, despite his fevered mind, the presence of what appeared to be summer in the village. I mean, he wasn't sure it was summer, but it was a direwolf of the right size and colouring to be summer.
Well, yeah. In fact, he thought it might have been Grey Wind. That was his first original thought. Was has Robb returned to the north?
Yeah, but the news that Bran is dead, the incorrect news that Bran is dead, makes that even more puzzling, because so what's happened is Summer roaming the north. Has it just as a free spirit, or has it taken some of Bran's soul with him, and is he now sort of like acting? Does Bran have some control over him, and so he's looking out for Jon, and that's why he was there? Yeah, it's going to be hard to puzzle that out. We obviously know that Bran was right there egging Summer on to save Jon, basically.
Right. And we had discussed whether Jon might pick up on the fact that it was Summer and go looking for Bran, or if Bran realized that was Jon and is going to go looking for Jon. It does seem like he made the connection.
Yeah.
We don't know when this connection was made. By he, I mean Jon made the connection.
Yeah, but certainly the news he gets of the fall of Winterfell and the death of Bran and Rickon will prevent Jon from really thinking too much about going back to look for the direwolf, because it's just a direwolf at that point.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So the one thing I would say, though, is if I thought that the direwolf was Bran's direwolf and Bran was dead, I might expect that direwolf to follow me, and it didn't.
Yes.
And that might I might ponder why that happened.
Right. Yes, I follow you. Yeah. I wondered, knowing that Jon had this thought about the Grey Wolf possibly being Summer, when he discovered it, like how far on his journey away from Queen's Crown did he think, oh, that might have been Summer? Because if he had done it pretty quickly, what would he do at that point if he thinks that is Summer?
Which means at that time he didn't know Bran was dead.
Right. Would he have gone looking for that wolf to try and find Bran? Like, what does he do? Does he run and flee back to Castle Black to alert his Brothers of the Night's Watch of the impending wildling attack? Or is he try and find his young 9-year-old brother who
that's a good point.
Was lost in the wild?
Yeah, that's a good point.
That would have been quite the tough decision.
I will say, stick an arrow through the fat part of my thigh, and I will probably forget about the rational decisions I might be making. And then when the fever kicks in, yeah.
Right.
Direwolf? Yes. What direwolf?
That could be.
And on the subject of a human spirit being left behind, Jon's feelings towards Yigrette are going to plague him. And I just wonder, at the very end, the last little bit, do you think Yigrette might be pregnant?
I wondered the same thing, because he says to her, I won't father a bastard. And she says, you know nothing, Jon Snow. Right. But I will say she says that all the time.
She does say that all the time.
So maybe that's just her catchphrase.
Maybe. It definitely became it in the TV show, but
yes.
But
yes,
it did feel like it was a response to the "I will never father a bastard," and that makes you think.
You know nothing, Jon Snow. You've already got one on the way.
Well, do you have some background for us?
I do. Background's a bit of a hodgepodge this time around, but I thought it were various things that were worth bringing up here. So, like I mentioned earlier, I'm going to kind of spell out geographically where these attacks from the wildlings were. The first attack, one of the attacks that was mentioned was, I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go west to east from across the wall. The furthest west was at Greyguard, where they were hacking at the gates, according to Noye. And that is 2 castles east of the Shadow Tower, and it happens to be where Jon and company came down the south side of the wall after their scaling of it. The next one over is Icemark, which is where the Weeper was spotted at Icemark, and that is 3 east from Greyguard. Right. Then, next further east is Queen's Gate, where they were actually climbing the wall. And that is 3 over from Icemark. And 1 west from Castle Black. So that one was pretty close to the source there.
Which is a bit strange, actually. I mean, you'd think they would intentionally spread them wider than that just to make life more difficult.
Yes, well, as you'll see here, there is a pattern going on. And then we've got Woods Watch by the Pool, which is where Harma Dog's Head was seen. And that is 3 over from Queen's Gate and 2 east from Castle Black. Then we've got Longbarrow, which is where Rattleshirt was seen. That's, guess what? 3 east of Woods Watch by the Pool. And then we've got East Watch by the Sea, where they were massing. And guess what that is? You'll never guess. 3. 3 east from Longbarrow. So There you go. They're spaced out pretty much, except for Greyguard and Icemark.
Yeah,
No, those are
yeah.
three. It's the Shadow Tower. They start two east from the Shadow Tower, and then
Yeah,
it's
I
every
mean,
three
they couldn't
castles.
divide it equally. They did all they could here.
Right. Yes, they tried.
So actually, Cotter Pike faces the same succession dilemma that Victorian Greyjoy struggles with,
Oh,
because to become Lord Commander, he needs to get himself to Castle Black and impose himself. But in doing so, he will abandon Eastwatch by the Sea at their moment of peril.
right. Right. Yes, I
Yeah.
see the parallel. Both Ironborn with dealing with this
Wow,
dilemma.
how strange! Yes, perhaps Victorian's son, for all we know.
Oh, could be.
I mean,
Yes.
he's presumably a
Uh,
Greyjoy bastard. I mean, otherwise he wouldn't
right.
even get the Pike denomination.
Yeah, I guess he could be from another house,
I suppose so,
in the
yes.
Iron
I
Islands.
always think of the Iron Islands as being just one house, really, but
Just
yeah.
one house. There's a few. Anyway, another concern. Okay, this is another bit of information here. One concern about the wildling attacks from the south is that there is no walls around Castle Black, and there's a legend about why that is. I've told you this story a long time ago, but the 13th Lord Commander, known as the Night's King, fell in love with a white-skinned woman with bright blue eyes. Sound like anyone we know? Uh, he brought her to the Night Fort, formerly the headquarters of Night's Watch, and declared himself king and her as queen. Awful deeds are said to have been committed during his reign. It took Brandon the Breaker, a Stark king of winter, and the king beyond the wall, Joramun, yes, same Joramun, who has had the Horn of
Yes,
Winter.
yes.
They joined forces to defeat the Night's King. And it's believed that due to this ordeal, the lords in the north forbade the Night's Watch from building walls around their castles on the southern side to make sure there was easy access for southern forces.
Fascinating background. I'll be back to that come pedantry, let
Okay.
me tell you.
All right. See how it all ties
Hmm.
together. Discussion,
Hmm.
background, pedantry. And finally, I found it interesting that Maester Aemon used a poultice of nettles, mustard seed, and moldy bread to patch up Jon's wound. And so I went digging to see what the deal was with these things. And so dried nettles are often used in a poultice on small wounds to fight infection. I got that from wellnessmama.com. Mustard seed, ground into a plaster and used as a poultice, stimulates healing in wounds, so says Wikipedia. But the one I found most curious and most interesting was the moldy bread. They put moldy bread in the poultice. Ancient Egyptian texts advise putting moldy bread on wounds to treat or prevent infections, which suggests that they understood the principles behind penicillin, even though they didn't know what bacteria was.
Okay, pedantry against you. I don't think they understood the principles.
Right.
They understood that it might have some benefits. They did not have a clue what was going on, but
No, they didn't, but they were getting the principles. Yes, they were understanding the principles of using mold
me, understanding the
for.
principles means you deeply understand the whole thing. They they're getting
Okay.
they're getting the gist of it. They have no idea about
They're
the underpinning, which is what I would mean by
they're doing
principles.
something and it's working.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what they know.
Which honestly, given sort of the state of medicine for the first 3,000 years of human existence, is quite a triumph. Because most medicine, it seemed to me, was not just trial and error, but trial, it doesn't work. That's the thing we'll keep doing.
Let's keep leeching people.
Leeching isn't the worst, but it wasn't particularly beneficial. But I know that one of the things that they did in sort of Victorian times was they would pierce your skin with a rusty, dirty nail, drag a dirty
Oh,
rope
okay.
through your skin out the other end.
Uh,
And then, because this thing became horribly infected, they thought they were drawing infection out of your body, but it was just they were infecting you, is all they were doing.
oh, yeah.
Uh,
Okay. That's not good.
no. All right, comparison with the television show. So I kind of missed this from the last John chapter, actually. There was a scene that I didn't notice that really belonged in the last John chapter, which is Ygritte catches up with him. She didn't shoot him originally. His wounds as he rode away were eagle wounds from the eagle's talons and uh, beak
Oh.
when Oral sort of like because Oral's death was saved for that scene, and then the eagle
Okay.
immediately attacked Jon, and that was the wounds he had when he rode off from the previous scene. Yigrette catches him up and threatens him with a bow and arrow, and he says, I love you and you love me, and I know you won't hurt me. And she says, you know nothing, Jon Snow, before putting 3 arrows into him.
Oh.
Aha. So no question about who shot him. It was Ygritte. And
Yeah.
so he arrives at Castle Black in a near-death state.
I guess so.
Now, because this was done very differently in the show, this group of wildlings was like a handful. It was not enough to take Castle Black if Castle Black was empty. Um, so he doesn't have anything to divulge to Castle Black. He doesn't, when he gets there, he just falls off the horse, and that's it. There's nothing for him to tell them apart from, you could say, hey, there's like 3 wildlings down there if you want to go and shoot, but it's not a danger. So that's basically the end of Jon's story for season 3. I looked ahead to what comes in season 4, but it looks to me like it's new material that doesn't belong here. It's a little bit
Okay.
the succession battle for Castle Black.
Oh, right.
Um,
All right.
I will say that the south side of Castle Black did have a wall and a gate. Not
I recall.
Yes.
Yes.
So that was that aspect of there not being any southern defenses was dropped. So pedantry. So nothing really that George Martin did wrong, but making that castle vulnerable from the south side is a very big chink in the armor. This
Uh-huh.
plan isn't rocket science. Get a group large enough to threaten Castle Black from the south of the wall, and they can go threaten Castle Black.
Right. Yeah.
Uh,
Or any of the other castles if they want
Right.
to.
Yes. Yes. Any castle actually any other castle is a good idea because plenty are abandoned, but you could use those as defensive positions to create more opportunities for people to climb the wall, and then you could have a
True.
force large enough to take Castle Black no matter what.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I will say, if the reasons which you gave earlier are merely legend, then shouldn't an astute Lord Commander make a plea to Winterfell to allow them at least a semblance of defensibility because of this exact scenario?
Especially since they're so depleted these
Right,
days
right,
for the past however many
right.
decades,
So they need the
century.
defense, and they're no threat to the realm.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my thing.
I agree.
All right, news and notes.
Sophie Turner is trading in her Stark Direwolf for some awesome 80s fashion. Turner will play the title role in Joan, an upcoming show on the CW. The story follows Joan Hannington, apparently one of Britain's most notorious criminals. I've never heard of her before.
Neither have I.
I don't know if you. Okay, she can't be that famous then. It takes us through her rise from a woman and mother trapped in a marriage to a criminal to becoming a master jewel thief herself.
Interesting.
Turner's co-star is Frankie Delane or Delane. I'm not
I
sure
would say
how you pronounce
Delane,
his last
but I
name.
don't know.
Delane from Fear the Walking Dead fame. And Joan is expected to premiere in 2024.
Interesting. Have you seen her in anything else? She was in The Staircase, which is a dramatization of a murder
Oh,
case that we are tangentially connected to,
right.
very
Right around
very
here it
mildly
happened.
connected to.
Right.
Um, and she was very good in that actually. She because she was playing an American, so she had to. Her, and her American father was played by a British guy, and her American mother was played by an Australian woman. So it was these foreigners coming in and taking our jobs.
That's right.
We have a new Buy Me a Coffee Knight of the Realm Sustainer, Nico Suave, which is a great name, by the way. Um,
It is a great name.
uh, Thanks very much. We're excited to get to know you. We're looking forward to see you on the Sustainer calls that include the Knights of the Realm. So thank you again, Nico.
And I hope you enjoy all the other perks that come with that tier of sustainership. And we got a review.
Can you read it out to me, Mackelly?
I will read it out to you. It's from Edward, third of his name, which is a good
Yes.
name. I believe that's the same name this listener uses on
Oh,
Discord.
cool.
We've chatted on Discord. And it comes from Apple Podcasts. And the subject line is "No panic switch here!"
Interesting. Do tell.
Exclamation point. Yes. The first line of the content of the review, though, goes, huge fan of the show. So,
Good.
I was in a stagnant place with content. I absolutely blew through a re-listen of A Song of Ice and Fire too quickly and was left wanting. I stumbled onto this in Audible as a recommendation. I definitely thought it was a book and had a good laugh during one of the reviews that I read that I was not alone there. Binging doesn't even begin to describe how I blaze through episodes. This is literally the only podcast I don't have to hit the panic switch for if my kids walk in the room or are with me in the truck.
What kind of filth do you listen to, Edward?
I have even joined the Discord house. Aaronford. Mackelly, super appreciative of the Roy Dotrice references. Simon, the alliterative name question had my gears spinning.
Me too.
Grateful for the content and thought put in. Light a candle to the many-faced pod.
Oh, thank you, Edward. That's awesome. That's really nice. And we're looking
That
forward to
is.
getting to know you. I'll reach out on Discord and say hi.
Thank you very much. Wonderful review. Much appreciated.
All right, let's draw the line under this one. So Jon delivered his message. The wildlings are planning an attack. They didn't have any luck with the Horn of Winter.
Wow. Hard-hitting stuff there.
Yeah.
Good thing he went through all that.
Yes. So you broke your vows. You got a big arrow through your leg. You're bringing us this?
Negative on the news.
Yeah.
Nothing. I have nothing to report. They didn't find anything.
Oh, yeah. There is a major shortage of men in the Night's Watch. I mean, there already was. Now most of them are dead.
Yeah.
We got the blind and the half-blind surgeons working together. We got the one-armed smith.
The dynamic duo of blind and half-blind. It is concerning how few brothers are not just in Castle Black. That's very concerning considering there's a force coming their way, but just in general. And it made me consider Robb's succession plan that he told Cat about. Now, we don't know what was in the letter that he wanted his bannermen to approve, sign off on.
We thought it might be to do with legitimizing and freeing from his vow Jon Snow.
Right. Yeah. And with how severely depleted the Night's Watch currently is, I could definitely see them using an extra 100 men in the place of one Jon Snow.
Practically one-legged Jon Snow. Direwolfless Jon Snow.
On the other hand, though, they've also suffered a serious loss in leadership potential. And might someone trained and educated like Jon be worth more than 100 common soldiers overall? I think I have a vague memory of Mormont saying something similar when he was talking to Tyrion about joining the Night's Watch.
Yes, he did say something along those lines, that one good man was worth 100 murders and rapists. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, because there's also a real dearth in leadership. And is that showing by them running around playing whack-a-mole with the wildlings? Or is that what Marsh doing what anybody would do?
I mean, you can't let them climb that wall.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Tricky.
Is Jaina Slint the answer?
I don't know. Thank you, Team Slint. It'd be funny if he just came in and sort of like kept Maester and Pike, guys, back off, go back to your homes. I'm in charge.
I'm in charge now.
So you noticed that Donal Noye fell for Jon's lies. I mean, believed Jon's story very easily. But I think the thing is, Donal Noye knows Jon, and those who know Jon know what he's like, and so the story just has the ring of truth to it.
I agree. I think that Donal Noye respects Jon and therefore believed his story.
Yeah.
I think other brothers who aren't so fond of Jon might think otherwise, though.
I mean, yes, it's one of those things where perspective is, your perspective will determine what you think rather than the evidence.
Yes, and which could be a big issue if someone that doesn't like Jon gets into power as Lord Commander.
Right. And of course, I was just thinking Jaina Slint wouldn't like him, but that's because I feel a sort of like a kinship across all of the point of view characters, but there is actually no connection between Jon Snow and Tyrion Lannister. So Jaina Slynt wouldn't actually be anti Jon Snow.
I think when Tyrion sent Jaina Slynt to the Night's Watch, when he shipped him off, did he not say, "Send my regards to Jeor Mormont and Jon Snow"?
Oh, God.
I think it's possible.
Let's hope
I could be making that up, but I think it's possible.
Let's hope he gets pushed overboard on the way then.
Allard Dean.
It looks like a fight is coming to Castle Black, and it's a fight that now can be won, but was definitely going to go the wildlings' way before Jon got here.
Yeah, it's a fight on two fronts, but the southern front is the more immediate fight. That's the one to keep the gates closed, because these wildlings are coming in to try and open that gate and let the flood through.
Yeah, everything else is just posturing. The real battle is whether or not Castle Black can be taken and the gates open. And yeah, we shall see.
Yeah. And we've got an impending reunion possibly coming up here.
You tell. Jon and Ghost.
Jon and Ghost, yes, that too, possibly. But Jon and Yigrette.
Oh, of course.
That wildling force gets here.
Right, of course.
Jon might be
yes, that's true.
reunited with Yigrette. And I love a good reunion, but this one is a bit different.
It'll be tetchy, yes.
Yes. I'm betting Jon's not necessarily looking forward to it.
Where are we going next week?
Next week, we are off to a cat chapter, and guess where it is?
I would guess it would be at the Twins.
It is at the Twins. They've made it to the Twins.
Okay.
How will they be treated by Walder Frey?
You're hosting a wedding. You roll out the red carpet.
I guess so. We'll see. Walder Frey? Maybe.
He'll want his pound of flesh, but it's a wedding. Come on, everyone loves a wedding.
Everyone's in a good mood at a wedding, right?
By the way, the wedding, I had the best time. It was absolutely fantastic. We had a great time.
Okay.
There you go. Met new people. The bride had just defended her PhD.
Oh, okay.
So she was
good for her.
Dr. Flower Girl when she got married.
Right.
Yeah. And she her PhD was about the uptick in rabies in Latin American stray dogs as a result of COVID.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is quite the connection there.
Yeah. She hypothesized that it would happen. I didn't get to the bottom of it, actually, because I said no, it would go the other way, because I said the packs of stray dogs would die out because there wouldn't be enough human food lying around to keep them fed. And her PhD advisor was telling me, yes, that's another aspect of it. But I think what it was there were more rabid wild animals coming into the cities. And so the stray dogs were getting rabies from the wild animals.
Oh, I see. I see the light.
Yeah.
I see the connection.
Yeah. So fascinating stuff.
Yeah.
So yes, everyone loves a wedding.
Everyone loves a wedding. And I will also add that Edmure gets to see his betrothed. And we'll have to find out what he thinks. He's been worried. He's been very worried.
Fingers crossed for him not complaining. Jeez. All right. There's now... Oh, I hate it when we have to change the script, Mackelly.
Oh, 4.
It's too much for me. Yeah. There's 4 ways that you can help us. You could leave us a 5-star rating and a positive review like Edward Third of his name did.
That's right.
You could buy merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com. You could buy... By the way, one of the things you can buy at the Threadless site is designed by Jenny of Oldstones, our one-time co-host. You should get in there and get you some of that.
Yes. Good. It's a really cool shirt,
It is, yeah. You can buy a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostsharrenhall and become a sustainer at Lord Paramount or Knight of the Realm level, as Nico Suave did.
That's right. Thank you, Nico.
Yep, and there's plenty to be gained from doing that. And you can just donate to our cause through our website, ghostsofharrenhall.buzzsprout.com.
And, of course, you could reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com, or you can follow us on Twitter @GhostHarrenhall. We're also on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.